This is the Sales Babble Podcast, episode 528, How to Sell Using the Buyer's Language.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. It's Pat. And have you ever struggled to build rapport with a prospect in a new industry? In every professional field, there's this distinct vocabulary understood by only a few people in that industry. And this specialized language includes unique terms, phrases, and acronyms essential for effective communication. Now, to excel at selling, you got to not only grasp this vernacular, but you also have to possess the ability to decipher the language of the buyer. So today, we're going to explore the art of understanding the buyer's language. What is that language? And how can I use that language to frame my product or service best? This skill is crucial for establishing rapport, demonstrating expertise, and ultimately in succeeding in sales. By honing this skill, sales professionals can deepen their connections with the clients, anticipate their needs, and foster trust, which enhances your effectiveness in the marketplace. What we're talking about is reality, knowledge, and Lao Tzu had a lot to say about that. How to sell using the buyer's language? That's the topic for today. But before we get to today's episode, make sure and subscribe to the podcast on whatever app that you're listening to. That way you'll never miss an episode. And so, with no further ado, let's babble. And now for today's chapter. First, set aside unfounded assumptions. Next, listen to learn the buyer's language. Then, question to understand their lives, seeking to know what they know, accepting what they say as fact. In the buyer's language, sellers communicate with confidence, knowing lasting relationships are born from transparent negotiations. And now today's story. On Monday, Chris started a new job selling a new product in a new industry. Excited to begin, Chris hit the ground running, only to find failure with each call and each email. Repeatedly, prospects shared no interest. It was frustrating. What seemed to work in one industry didn't fit this new industry. And sensing a rising level of discouragement, Pat stepped in to help. "Chris," said Pat, "this is a very different industry compared to your past. I know it's a big challenge. If you don't know the 280E issue or the 8300 form, prospects don't trust you to understand their business. This is a big hurdle." "I know," said Chris. "There's so much to learn." Pat went on. "Every industry has a secret language. And in an industry as new and changing as this one, there are no books or articles for self-study. But here's the good news. Once you learn that language, you become a member of the tribe. When that happens, prospects will trust you and buy from you." "So how do I do that?" asked Chris. Pat answered, "All of us are new to this market. I wish I could tell you more. But instead of asking prospects to schedule a meeting, ask them for advice on the industry. Learn their language. Learn the nomenclature. Understand their challenges and the vernacular that goes with it. Ask them for advice on our product offering and listen to how they describe the features and benefits. I expect this is going to take a while, but over time, we can learn this business and excel." Lao Tzu wrote, "The greatest virtue is to follow Tao and Tao alone. The Tao is elusive and intangible, and within is image. It is elusive and intangible, and yet within is form. It is dim and dark, and yet within is essence. This essence is very real, and therein lies faith. This too is true for sellers. Instead of guessing what buyers want, you must set aside your ego and accept as fact whatever the buyer says. This is an act of faith. Wade into their world to understand the lingua franca of their business. Make no assumptions. Speak only about their aspirations, challenges, and concerns. Your responsibility is to learn their language, not vice versa. The best way to learn is to ask their advice and accept that there are no dumb questions. First crawl, walk, and then run. There's no skipping of steps when learning the buyer's secret language. But once it's learned, you'll know for certain how best to communicate with your prospect. Now, to download a copy of this week's chapter of the Tao of Sales Babble, you can find it in the show notes at salesbabble.com. While you're there, you can sign up for a brief weekly newsletter with links to the podcast sent conveniently to your inbox. And oh, by the way, if you really enjoyed this podcast episode, if you found value in this, if you could share it with just one friend who's also looking to grow their selling skills, hey, that'd be awesome. I'd really appreciate that. Word of mouth, the way you grow podcasts, and that's the best way of growing this sales community. Next, if you got any questions about sales, reach out. Find me on LinkedIn or click on the Babble Me link on the website, because sales is one of my favorite topics. If you're looking for help, I'm your guy. With that said, that's all I've got for today. Until next Tuesday, take care and have a highly successful and a profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.
This is a production of Habanero Media.